Okay, my name is Jeffrey Page. I'm so pleased to be in front of you and greeting you. And this is the legendary André De Shields. Please. I'm very happy to have Mr. De Shields with us. We were out eating pancakes and fish and chips last night, and I got to pick his brain a little bit. And I get to pick his brain a little bit more in front of you all. So we're gonna wait for Jay Copeland to come out. I'm also really pleased that these are two Maryland boys that's gonna be in front of us. So Jay is the actor who is actually playing Mr. De Shields' role, and then we have Mr. De Shields himself, and they are both from Maryland. Isn't that something? So, any thoughts before we get started?
Any questions?
Oh, I have so many questions. What was it like putting this thing together?
When I have an opportunity to speak about Ain't Misbehavin, I refer to it as one of the last miracle musicals. I don't know if you're aware of the Manhattan Theater Club in New York, which is now one of the juggernauts. But in 1977, when we all came together to discover if we had anything in this idea of a musical tribute to the life and times of Fats Waller, the Manhattan Theater Club was located on East 73rd Street, almost in the East River, between 1st and 2nd Avenues.
Oh, God.
And its venue seated 64 people.
Wow.
This was a huge experiment to take the music of a jazz icon and put it in the context of a narrative for an audience of people who didn't quite understand, didn't quite have a memory of the period in which it's set, which is the Harlem Renaissance. Fast forward to the first evening of the performance, and the audience was out of their minds with joy. Now, when I talk about the process of theater, I think about 3 E's, the letter E, 3 of them. The narrative must have entertainment. It also must have enlightenment. And last, and certainly not least, it must offer some soupçon, some morsel of ecstasy. And as I heard, and I experienced the performance last night, and as I heard while we were waiting to come on stage, I believe you received all of the evidence in that equation. You were certainly entertained, because we as performers do whatever it takes to cause you to smile. I think some of you might have been enlightened because this narrative is based on a time in American history when jazz was just being born. Nowadays, we understand that jazz is America's version of classical music, and it is a gift to the entire world. Now, this idea of ecstasy, we make a covenant with you, we being the performers, we make a covenant with you. And the covenant is this: join us on the journey And we promise three things. We will challenge you. We may even change you. But just like the Hippocratic Oath, the number one element in this relationship, in this covenant, is primum non nocere. First, do no harm. And once you get to the end of the journey, if we have followed this equation, you should feel lifted by ecstasy, by joy, if we've done our work correctly. Because there's only three places you can experience true ecstasy. Well, four. Let me be ecumenical about this. The temple, the church, the mosque, and the theater. You come here, you may not articulate it this way to your neighbor or to the stranger you're sitting next to, but you come to the theater, you sit next to a stranger in the dark, ultimately when the lights go down, for one of 5 reasons. Because there are only 5 questions in this journey we call life. Who, what, where, when, why? If you can answer those 5 questions, you're on the precipice of ecstasy. Now, in response to that, you come here because you have a question that you want to be answered. You have a problem that you want to be solved. You have a crisis that you want to be resolved. You have a burden that you want to be lifted, or you have a yoke that you want to be broken. Now, those aren't the kind of conversations you have when you buy your tickets. But if you came here and we didn't answer a question, and we didn't lift a burden, and we didn't solve a crisis, and we didn't break a yoke, you'd be mad with us. You'd want your money back. And then you'd go back to the temple, to the mosque, and the church, and never come to the theater again. But we deliver on that promise. That's what brings you to your feet. That's the way you thank us. Now I'm going to go on a tangent for just a moment, a brief tangent, because I'm reminded that when people spontaneously stand for an ovation, it is half of the relationship, the other half being our taking a bow. We borrowed this from Kabuki theater. There was a time when people were not paid to perform, right? And if we did well enough, then you in the audience would come to the edge of the stage and present an offering of food, because you know we're hungry. Have you ever met a performer who isn't hungry? Right? And we, in turn, would have to bow to pick up the food that you brought us, to say thank you for entertaining us. Isn't that interesting? Enlightenment. Who said it? Yes! Absolutely. But in terms of Ain't Misbehavin, the Enlightenment was about the jazz revolution at the turn of the 20th century and how it was the first element that successfully worked against segregation, because everyone loved jazz. Everyone wanted to either play it or dance to it or have a record of it. But you couldn't participate in it if you brought your prejudices, if you brought your biases, if you brought your proclivities, if you brought your predispositions. If there was anything that you felt or learned that made it incompatible with the love that's in the music called jazz, you could not participate. So immediately, you had to separate yourself from the bias that you were holding if you wanted to have this much fun with those people who were creating it, experiencing it, and wanting to share it. That's what Ain't Misbehavin' is all about. The subtle tease that's in the title. I'm not misbehaving, but of course I am. I'm not being naughty, of course I am. Everything is a double entendre, right? Everything is titillating. Everything has a sensibility that says, think about this so that you can enjoy the physical pleasure that's associated with it. Ain't Misbehavin', jazz. Fats Waller, who weighed 300 pounds and who was over 6 feet tall. A great clown, and at the same time, a very sad story to tell about how lonely he was as a child, how he was bullied as a child, how he had to, I love this phrase, how he had to pull himself up by his own bootstraps. But of course he didn't have any boots, right? And how this country had some of the political scales pulled from its eyes, all because of the creation of a music that had as its message joy. Let's have a good time. Let's laugh in the face of adversity. The critics in New York didn't know what to make of this miracle. In 1977, when it was off Broadway, I call it a miracle because 4 months later we were opening on Broadway. Nowadays you couldn't do that. Nowadays you have to go out of town and try it out here, try it out there, which is legitimate. But we started rehearsing in 1977, which was one of the biggest snowstorms New York ever had. December 1977, and in May of 1978, we were opening on Broadway.
Wow.
And the critics, they didn't want to dismiss it, but they wanted to refer to it as a review. But because of the interstitial material, and there wasn't much, but every song is a play unto itself. And the bit of information that we share between the songs was so authentic, was so convincing, that it appeared to have had a book written, that there was an author. So ultimately, we won the Tony for Best Musical. And that's where the entertainment, enlightenment, and ecstasy comes in, because that's what musicals have to deliver. I should shut up, huh?
I love that so much. Let me bring Jay Copeland
here?
out. Yeah, he's here.
Come on, Jay.
Mr. De Shields spoke a lot about some things that it's interesting. I've been thinking about a lot. In my research, I have found the same kinds of things that he's talking about right now, and it's really magnificent for me to sit here and listen to the same things that I have been thinking about in the privacy of my apartment, in the privacy of my mind, and to hear not only another human being, but a person who actually was a part of the team that built this work of art say the exact same thing that I had been thinking about. So Jay just came out.
This is my grandson. Not because we're related by blood, but because 45 years ago, when I created this role, this young man was not even an idea. So, but now he's proof that the show is generational, right? I'm Andre, he's playing Andre. Very well, I might say.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you. So a while ago, I asked Jay if I'm allowed to tell this story, and he said I can, but I'm looking at his eyeballs just to make sure that I still can tell this story.
We have so
What
many.
story?
That's fine, whatever story it is.
Okay. So when Jay came on board, I was attempting to share with the cast this idea of a need, a proclamation for Black people to say with clarity, I promise I'm not misbehaving. I promise there's nothing about me that is bad. There's nothing about me that is lacking. And to prove it, I will wear this mask for you, and I will put on the biggest smile that I can possibly put on to make sure that you are comfortable. And so I think before this event happened that I'm getting ready to share with you, I think Jay kind of struggled with this just a bit. As talented as he is, I think he kind of struggled with this. I got a text message from the stage manager saying Jay was running late. This was in Rochester. That he had been stopped by the police. He was coming back from the gym, and I got to rehearsal, and I'm working with the rest of the cast, and Jay walks in, and this strong, solid young man, I can tell that he was a bit shaken. And I go to check in with him. Jay, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. And then he starts to recount the story to me. And then I can see his body is starting to shake and quiver. And he starts to cry. And I tell the stage manager, give me a second, let me take Jay out and have a conversation with him. So the conversation that I had with Jay is, I said, Jay, so what happened? And he told me, the police officer said that my lights were out. My lights are clearly not out. I said, how did you feel in the moment? He said, I felt like it was extremely unfair. I said, what did you do? What did you do in order to make sure that you were safe? He said, I smiled, and I told him we can check to see that my lights are still working and so on and so forth. I hope I'm getting this right because my memory is a little foggy right now. And, he was extremely emotional. And I said, Jay, this is what I'm asking you to do. This is the work of art that we're building. I want you to feel what this feeling is right now inside of you. And I want you to understand that this is the work that I'm asking you to build. So I hope I was not appropriating his hurtness, but it was the work that needed to happen. And from that moment on, I saw a kind of growth in Jay that I can't explain. Like he just got it in such a fantastic, heartbreaking and tragic way. He understood what the assignment was, and so I was really grateful that he understood it. but I was really sad that he had to experience what he had to experience in order to get the lesson. And so you have thoughts about that particular story, Jay?
Hello. Hey, y'all. So, yes, I completely concur with Jeffrey. When I was pulled over, not only as a black man, you know, when you get pulled over by a police officer, you have to put on the mask. We call it code switching, or using their common vernacular, in order for me to feel safe, to feel as if my life is put into great hands. Because the way his tone was talking to me, I felt as if I wasn't safe. So I had to make sure I put on the mask to let him know that he was safe for my skin color. And that was one of the most dehumanizing things that I've experienced, and I just couldn't believe that I had to make him feel safe when he has the ultimate power. He has the weapon, he has the authority. I'm just in my car. So when I did get back to the theater, a lot of people do view me as physically I do look strong, but sometimes in here I feel helpless, especially when you are in a city that you don't know anyone. We were fresh into rehearsal, so I didn't know what to do. And to have to put on a mask for people is probably one of the most tiring and exhausting things that you do, that I can think of. To put on a mask in a whole entire day, and then you get back home and you just feel completely empty. And that's how I felt in the rehearsal. So when Jeffrey took me to the side, he told me to use that and to put this into the story of having to wear a mask. And it kind of just opened my eyes to a lot of things that I did not know that I could do. And so I really appreciated that moment for Jeffrey to take a side of rehearsal to talk to me about that. And yeah, my life has changed after that, for sure. Yeah.
So Mr. De Shields, he said a lot, and I definitely want to get into some of the things that he shared. But I think in order to really kind of rev this conversation along, I would love to tell you another story, and then I think it's gonna give us the adequate material in order to really push forward with the conversation. So Fats Waller was in Chicago. I think he was touring with Louis Armstrong in Chicago, and he was playing a set. just to give you a bit more context about the story that happened with Jay and how it pertains to the show, and also what Mr. De Shields shared. He was playing Chicago, and in the back of the club, there were these guys. Now, some people say this is a rumor. Some people say it's not a rumor. Some people, it's all kinds of stories around this story. And after the show was finished, Mr. Waller finished his set, and he left the club, and he was swooped up by these goons who had been watching him all night. His hands were bound, his eyes were covered, he was thrown into the back of a car, and he was taken to a location. Upon arrival, they said, boom, took the blindfold off, and in front of him is Al Capone, okay? If you don't know Al Capone, he was a very dangerous person. He was a very dangerous person, and this is a very important part of the story. Al Capone was the kind of person that could sense if you were not being sincere, it meant that there was harm due to him. So therefore, Mr. Waller had to put on the show of his life. I didn't tell you why, though. So the goon said, there's a piano, play. It's Al Capone's birthday. Okay, this is after he just got finished playing a set, right? And so what I always ask myself, aside from the money that was given to him after he finished playing, the alcohol that was given to him, the food that was given to him, he was asked to play for 48 hours. Again, the rumors kind of differ, right? I always ask myself, how did Mr. Waller feel how did he feel if he was taken from a location and then made to do a thing? Yes, he was given some money, but how did he feel? Was his agency there? Like, did he have full autonomy of himself and his body? I always ask myself that question. And in addition to that, I ask myself, what kind of show did he have to put on in order for him to walk away with his life? Mind you, he was a black man in 1930s Chicago. You know, a lot could have happened, right? So I think about Jay and his story. I think about what Mr. De Shields said, and Mr. De Shields is confirming a lot of the things that I've been researching and thinking about, especially with this show. And I think that's what this show is. So with that said, Mr. De Shields, he mentioned, he said a word that I want to bring up. He said narrative. And with this show, most people would call a review. I would love to know your thoughts about why do you use that term, and I agree with that term that you use. Why do you use that term narrative as opposed to review?
This may sound repetitive. Every one of the songs in Ain't Misbehavin' is a complete miniature play. There's a protagonist, there are antagonists, there are relationships that get even clearer when you understand that there are 5 people on stage telling the story. Now, why 5? Because there's always the opportunity and the risk for conflict. You can have any combination of 2 people. Twice. What do you do with the 5th wheel? That's the drama. That's the conflict. And it exists in every song that's in this musical. And it culminates with Black and Blue. And it's very interesting to know that Black and Blue now has a political patina superimposed on it. But when it was originally written, it was about the color cast and how people of fairer skin are much more lucky in love than people with dark skin. And there's a kinescope of the young lady who originally sang the song, who's in an oversized bed covered with luscious-looking white linen, and she looks like a little raisin in a bowl of rice pudding. And her lament is, I am so dark that no one loves me. That's heartbreaking. It has come down to us through the centuries to the point where we have expressions like walking while black, driving while black, running while black. So we know we still have work to do. But the invitation is for each of us in these stressful situations, once we get into a safe place, each of us should sing Black and Blue to him or herself. Because the poetry lifts the experience to something that's universal. That's why this is not a review, because we begin with the particular and then it expands to be inclusive and it becomes universal. Maybe none of you has ever been stopped for the color of your skin, but everyone has an experience in life where you've been treated unfairly, and no matter how many appeals you make, no one gives you a break. No one understands why you are speaking your truth to power. It's because each of us knows what it means to have his humanity diminished. Especially you women today. Right? Your body autonomy is being threatened, whether you support abortion or not. Someone is trying to take control of you, frighten you, and tell you how you must live, or otherwise you'll be treated as a criminal and you'll be punished. Now, as a man, let me tell you, if we could be blessed with pregnancy and we didn't want to go through 9 months of gestation, we would have invented a machine, just like the ATM on the corner, where we could get an abortion. So, you can genuinely ask yourself now, what did I do to be so black and blue? Has nothing to do with your skin color, but it has to do with the crime that you experience by simply wanting to be an independent individual in a society that prides itself on a multicultural democracy. What did I do to lose my sense of freedom?
Amen.
So it's not a review. It's not a passing fancy. It isn't something that you can take or leave. You have to wear a mask now. When you wake up every day, you have to decide, what mask am I going to put on to get through the next 24 hours? Because they're coming after me. So I have to pretend to be something that I am not. That is no way to live. You have to be true to yourself. Your humanity has to be respected. Hate me if you want, but you've got to respect my humanity. What did I do to be so black and blue? Oh, yeah.
Jay, how do you prepare yourself to get up to that level of the show every night?
Ooh, I actually, to be honest, I think I told you, it makes it very uncomfortable to even think about going into the end of the second act, just because I still learning how to prepare myself to get to that point. You know, I'm fairly young. I'm only 24, so still, having to relive, to do this musical, to do this show every day. Sometimes it's challenging because I don't know how to prepare myself. As for example, for Fat and Greasy, it's a very funny song, but we're also talking about very offensive terms in regards to black people. So then when we transition into black and blue and we hear, the laughter, it's also uncomfortable laughter. And I think people start to realize that what we were talking about was quite offensive. So to sit there and to answer your question, I still don't know how to prepare for it. So I'm learning. Maybe Mr. De Shields, you can tell me on what to do to prepare for that. I don't know.
What are you preparing for?
For getting into black and blue, to prepare myself every day to sing that.
Well, if you want to do it the method way, just remember this encounter you had with the police officer,
Right.
and you'll be ready to sing black and blue. But again, take that particular moment, take the specificity of that moment, and apply it on the scale of humanity. Everyone has a situation in which she has been abused. Now I'm switching up on the pronouns so that everyone understands that we're talking to everybody.
Right.
There is no one who does not know what it means to be psychologically assaulted. How to be made to feel less than you are. Everyone is trying to live his most authentic life. But as soon as you walk out the door, you have to say to yourself, "Get thee behind me, Satan." Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And then you pray that you can get through the day and come home safe, unbattered, unhurt, undiminished, and still able to look forward to getting up tomorrow, which is another 24 hours of the drudgery of dealing with intolerance, being judged, being treated unlovingly, and feeling unworthy. When each of us believes that we are worthy unto ourselves simply because we share the same breath. That's what makes us worthy. Not how much we have in the bank, not how sartorially we are correct with our clothes, not the people we know. Joni Mitchell, I'm sure many of you are familiar with Joni Mitchell. I can't say it any better than Joni Mitchell, who's a prophet from the 70s, who says, "We are stardust, we are golden, we are 100 million year old carbon, and we've got to get ourselves back to the garden." And that is each individual's purpose, to get back to the garden. Flowers don't diminish one another. Plants don't say, "I'm better than you are." A rose doesn't say to a daffodil, "You can't live in this neighborhood." So why can't we learn from that? We're all stardust. We're all golden. We all are seeds planted in the same garden. The wind blows in my face, it blows in your face. The rain falls on my head, it falls on your head. Fire will burn you, fire will burn me. So what's the problem? There's enough for everybody if no one takes too much. There's enough food to feed the world if we don't hide it in silos. There's enough freedom to go around if we don't put a price on it. In Black and Blue, one of the lyrics is, I'm white inside, but that don't help my case because I can't, what? Hide what's on my face. There should not be a rationale to hide anything because we are all stardust. We are all golden. We're all flowers in the cosmic garden.
This is what I needed. This is what I needed.
So that's how you get to Black and Blue.
Yes.
And so you know it's very hard for me to treat this like a normal audience talk back situation, just because we have such a mind in Mr. De Shields. But I would love to open it up and know if you have any questions. Yes.
Well, I saw Mr. De Shields in San Francisco in Ain't Misbehavin in the original cast, and I was just blown away. And I've watched your career your whole lifetime, but I had no idea that you would bring me to church in this very moment.
All right, can we get an amen?
Amen.
I watched your work, and it's always resonated, but all that's what it comes from. Oh my God.
Well, that's how I'm able to get up every day with a smile on my face. When you tell me to stop, no. Every day I get up on this side of dirt and I go to my mirror and I wash my hands, right? But I have on my mirror a Chinese proverb. And it reads this. And I'm talking to the person who's reflected in the mirror. That's what's most important. I'm not talking to any other essence except the one person who's looking back at me from the mirror. And I say aloud, I will never forsake you. I will always cherish you. I will do for you what the spring does to the cherry tree. I'm set for the day. And what does the spring do to the cherry tree?
Makes it grow.
Causes it to blossom. And that's our purpose here, to blossom, to bloom, to fill intimate spaces with enormous beauty. And when I say intimate space, I don't mean the intimacy of the Westport Playhouse. The intimate space that we want to fill with enormous beauty is your heart. Your heart. Your heart, your heart, your heart.
Question right here.
Yeah, I just, to go to the more pedantic, I guess, I saw you in 1978 on Broadway. It was just wonderful. Do you stay in touch? I know you can't with Nell Carter, but do you stay in touch with your fellow actors? And do they talk about this experience in the same way?
Well, not exactly the same way, but we have all learned from this experience, and we continue to learn, because Ain't Misbehavin is a popular play. It's done everywhere all the time. And I do communicate with Nell Carter. and Armelia McQueen, who's no longer with us. But yes, we were a group of titans who were friends. Each of us could steamroll the other with the talent that we possess. But that would have gotten us nowhere, right? You take the strength that you possess and you mix it in with the strength that your colleagues possess. And that's how you rule. You multiply the aggregate of everyone's strength.
Mm.
Now, you may not put any credence in the cosmos, but Nell Carter was a Virgo. One of five, right? One of five. Charlene Woodard, Ken Page, Amelia McQueen, and André De Shields are all Capricorns. Do you see what I'm saying? So we were the launch for Nell Carter to get her Tony Award, because she wasn't going to be around very long.
Mm.
Well, you produced ecstasy for sure.
Great. Excellent. Excellent. You know, the Greek call, in the Poetics, Aristotle, etc., they call it catharsis, right? When you get so full of emotion that your entire being elevates. That's why we do this, because we want to see you float. We want to see you defy gravity. Yeah?
You do it every night. That's
Good.
what I just can't get over.
Excellent. Excellent.
Any other questions? Yes. Let's go one and then someone back here. Okay, so one and then two, okay?
I go first?
Yes.
Okay. I have the question for Mr. Shell, and thank you so much to be here. It's a really big surprise here today. And I watched your show last January in the Broadway, Hadestown. And that's the best show I ever saw because of you. It's really, really good. And my question is, you know the Hadestown's really, really famous the Wait For Me, and you're you sing the lyric is the first the lyric should be the meanest dog you ever meet. It's the whole it's really, really meaningful. What's your the understanding? I just wanna know your the understanding this the lyric.
This is very simple. No, it is. It's very simple. I don't know if all of you heard this, but the phrase he's asking me to respond to is the meanest dog you'll ever meet. And then it goes on to say to Orpheus, on his attempt to collect his lover Eurydice and escape Hades town. And you all know what the deal is, because not only is it in Greek mythology, but it's in what Christians call the Old Testament, and what Jewish people call the Holy Scriptures. It's the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, when that city is destroyed, and Lot is given a special dispensation by his God, and the warning is, leave this city because I'm about to destroy it, and don't look back. Of course, we put the blame on Lot's wife, she turns and looks over her shoulder, and she's transformed into a pillar of salt. Now, in Hadestown, it's the same deal. You will be able to return to the earthly paradise if you don't look back to see that your treasure is following you. We get fooled, though. It isn't so much about looking back as it is, don't allow doubt to betray your trust. The same thing as get behind me, Satan. I have a destination to get to, and nothing can turn me from it. Right? Don't allow doubt to turn you into the problem that you have to solve. Another thing I do every day is, please, whatever the powers are, keep me out of my own way. Right? The meanest dog you'll ever meet is in your head or in that mirror that you go to. It's that easy. It's that simple. Get out of your own way.
Up here?
This will likely be of no interest to anybody else. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin.
Go, Badgers!
And if you were there, possibly when Cecil Taylor was a visiting professor.
What year was that?
Cecil Taylor was there, I believe, in 1971.
Oh, I was long gone. I'm an old man. I was long gone. I was long gone. But I do know who Cecil Taylor was. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Which years were you there, if you don't mind?
I don't mind. 68, 69, and then I was gone. I was there for 18 months. Although people think I was there for 4 years. But I was there for 18 months. Came in, did the thing, gone. What was that?
Did you hang out at the Rathskeller?
Oh, absolutely. My name is still on the wall. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I think that we have reached our time. Thank y'all for hanging around. Really
Yeah,
appreciate
thank you
it.
so much.
Please, I hope that you will share this experience with your family and friends and people. I hope that this theater is filled up every single night. I think that these performers, I see Maya back there.
Hey, Maya.
Jay.
It's Will. Will
Who's
is
that?
back.
Will is back there. Y'all know I
Yeah.
wear glasses. I can't see nothing.
We were all hanging out last night at Andros. You know Andros? Anybody? Yeah.
The diner. Yeah.
We were at 2 a.m.
Yes.
falling out.
I was picking his brain the whole night. So I hope you tell people about the show. We're here, and the theater is craving for butts in the seats. So I hope that you will tell people to come. Thank you so much for hanging around.